CNN cybersecurity reporter Sean Lingus is here with me in the Situation Room. Sean, I know you have some new reporting this morning about some worrisome cyber attacks on U.S. water systems. What more are you learning? I'm really concerned about this.
Yeah, well, so the problem with the water sector and other critical infrastructure sectors in the U.S. is they leave too much of their sensitive computer systems online. The types of computers that monitor water pressure and other safety parameters at water systems. And what happened here is that someone, possibly Iran, not confirmed yet, but someone earlier this week carried out this sort of sweeping cyber attack across potentially 6 states. The epicenter was sort of in Minnesota, where we had 30 water systems affected. And the hackers are going in and sort of accessing some of these industrial machines and potentially causing safety issues. Now, we don't have any reports of contamination or anything like that. Things were safely shut down, and there's no threat to the immediate threat to the drinking water. But this really has U.S. officials alarmed. FBI, EPA have been investigating all week and trying to run it down to make sure that there's been no threat to the drinking water. In some cases, water utilities have advised folks to boil water briefly, but this is something that's been sort of brewing for a long time. You got the Iran war, you have Iran threatened and weakened, and potentially Iran using their asymmetric capabilities over here to make us feel the pain.
So why are they suspecting, and the key word, suspecting Iran? They don't have any hard proof of that, at least not yet.
Some of the tactics match. They haven't pointed the finger officially. They don't want to rule out a false flag or something like that. But given the geopolitical environment, it's the top suspect in many cases.
Could be very, if it's Iran doing this, could be very worrisome indeed. All right, thanks very, very much, Sean Lingus reporting.
Cybersecurity experts are raising fresh alarm over potential cyber threats against U.S. critical infrastructure, urging local communities to take their water system controls offline. And here's why. Word out of Minnesota of a massive and coordinated cyber attack. Officials there are now saying that hackers targeted more than 30 local water systems in Minnesota over the course of 2 days, this past Sunday and Monday, hacking them through the online systems that manage operations. Now, officials say the hackers went so far as to change passwords and lock out official personnel. They even disconnected the systems by changing IP addresses. The New York Times is reporting that local officials have said that the well and treatment plant in at least one city was temporarily offline on Monday. But the state says at this time they are not aware of any active requests from Minnesota cities to have their residents modify their drinking water usage, meaning no reports yet that there's, anything dangerous or unsafe about the water because of these hacks. Joining us right now, CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andy McCabe. Andy, this is something that you can be sure that Minnesota says they're in touch with all relevant authorities, especially the FBI for sure, to investigate this. What concerns you when you hear this about just, again, reminding us of the vulnerability of critical infrastructure in the United States, like when it comes to our water?
Yeah, so this is a really serious reminder of why we've been spending so much time and effort over the last decade trying to secure these elements of our critical infrastructure. So what's happening here is something they call programmable logic controllers have been targeted. These are essentially the kind of computer-driven brains that monitor the very physical aspects of a water system. So they can actually change the flow rates, they can open or close valves, they can raise or lower the temperature, they can add or subtract or reduce chemicals put into the water. Those things are all monitored by these logic controllers, and the logic controllers can make those changes in the system. Those controllers are, of course, connected to the internet so that they can be monitored and adjusted by water system administrators. What the attackers have done here is gotten into the controllers through those internet connections. So CISA is advising all the cities to go back and check their systems to make sure that they are, appropriately secured from that sort of intrusion. You can see the kind of chaos that could result if an adversary focused on really imposing costs and harm on American citizens. If they were successful in an attack like this, we could be in for some serious trouble.
Yeah, the fact that it happened over the course of 2 days, it means it wasn't a quick in and a quick out. I mean, this happened in its 30 communities we're talking about. Are there immediate suspects here when something like this happens?
Well, I guess the past is our best guide as to what might be happening now or in the future. And we do know one of the most likely suspects here is the government of Iran. We know this because they have a history of targeting water treatment, critical infrastructure facilities. Back in 2016, the Justice Department indicted a number of Iranian hackers who had conducted all sorts of activity, but one of those hackers was specifically charged with unauthorized access to a protected system. He actually hacked his way into a dam in Rye Brook, New York, and attempted to control what they call the sluice gate, which is essentially the controller of how much water comes over the dam. Now, in that case, that particular gate had been taken offline years before, so he wasn't able to accomplish his goals. But this is a pretty consistent issue for Iran. So I think they're probably the most likely suspect at this point, although we haven't heard a conclusive attribution from the government just yet.
Yeah, definitely so many questions raised, but what's happening in Minnesota is just one 30 communities, one state, and so quickly it can become such a scary situation. Andy, thank you so much. Your perspective on this is so important. Thank you. We've just learned that that Minnesota and the federal government are investigating a massive coordinated cyber attack on 30 local water systems in that state, in Minnesota. And the little that we've learned about it so far is that official personnel that got locked out of online systems, IP addresses were changed. The former deputy director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, was just on with me, and I want to play for you what he said about who he thinks could be, of course, this isn't yet stated by the federal government, but who he thinks could be behind this.
We do know one of the most likely suspects here is the government of Iran. We know this because they have a history of targeting water treatment, critical infrastructure facilities. Back in 2016, the Justice Department indicted a number of Iranian hackers who had conducted all sorts of activity.
Has House Intel been briefed on this breach?
Not yet, but what we know in our prior briefings is that Iran has the capability of doing this. And now, given the spread, the escalation in the war and the chaos that has ensued, it's entirely quite possible that they conducted this attack. The other part of this is that we are just not prepared with regard to defending our utilities from these cyber attacks. I happen to be the ranking member on the subcommittee of the Full Intelligence Committee that's looking at this particular issue, and we've sounded the alarm that now the Russians just recently hacked into UK private industry, causing billions of dollars of damage. The Chinese and the Iranians both have the capability of doing so here with regard to utilities. And instead of defending them and coordinating with those utilities, the federal government is now cutting funding for DHS and CISA, the Cyber Information Security Agency, that would otherwise be charged with helping to coordinate and defend against those attacks.
Yeah, quite a moment, and just scary. I mean, 30 water systems, though they say that they don't have any reports that the water is unsafe, it's still just a terrifying prospect and a threat of what is out there.